Now, the rest of the story.
And if you're wondering what it looks like when it's all cut, I just made the last pass. So you can't hardly tell now that it's cut where it was, reclaimed. So I'm a little doubtful that all the stalks and stems from the cattails that we tried to clean out from the first cutting or the last cutting that we made off of it, if it's gonna leave a fair amount of material there yet. I'm not sure if the sweeps will be able to pick that up, but we go through and get this tedded out. The ground actually was a little soft where the grass was lodged over, particularly where I had driven across it with the 79 when I sprayed it. Still very visible. That's why I run tram lines, and I try to keep my traffic to specific areas of the field, so I'm not creating any more compaction or growth issues by doing that. And this bad boy right here helps me do that. So I'm back in the 79. Ryan had to take off, and I still have to finish off the upper part of the bottom, and then I'm gonna try to take some off of the bench. We gotta come back down and finish it tomorrow. There's no way I'll be able to finish this tonight unless I could pull an all-nighter, and I'd probably see the sun coming up at the rate I'm going here. This took a long time to get done, which I know there's significantly more ground there. I mean, when I'm making passes, which are awfully crooked, but I'm making passes where I'm starting in right here, and I'm literally driving all the way down to the tree line down there. To put it into reference, when I first took this back over, I couldn't make anything from, let's see if you want to see it on the phone, from here over. That was a pretty massive area where I couldn't make it, and every year I was gradually working it back. Now, the dry weather has worked in my favor, but if we get back into a wet spell or a wet stretch of weather, I'm hoping that through here, now that I've gotten all that material taken off and we'll get this made, the ground is fully exposed, just like everything else. Like everything else I've reclaimed down here. That was just a real trouble area because there's a spring right there that I actually drove through and cut it. Ideally, even on a wet year, I'm hoping that, like with this little spot right here where there's always water there for first cutting, what I'm hoping I can get to is the low spot right at the tip of my finger right down there will accumulate the water, or the water will pool there, and I'll actually be able to go between that spring and that low spot and actually clean up a bunch of this yet. Open up a few more acres, a few more bales, a few more tons. That's the name of the game of why I'm even down here. So grass looks beautiful. Yeah, it's got some of the brownness to it, which I've been told when I try to sell this stuff, or when I sell this stuff, that buyers don't like the brown stemmy stalks, and I should be cutting it sooner. Even in the spring, cutting it in June, like the 1st of June, I was still told, well, I should be cutting it sooner. Well, honestly, for down here, when we don't have any of the growth issues early on in the season, like flooding and frost and all that, if the Reed Canary can get as tall as it typically does, on a regular year, it may be the 1st of June before I can even think to come down here and do anything down here. So this is a long-winded video, and I'm over it. I'll talk to you guys in tedding or baling. So, talk to you later. This is the first time this ground's ever had a tedder pulled across it, I'm pretty sure. Or at least on this, the reclaim part of the lower bottom. And it's probably why it's so rough, right? But I'm gonna at least say that it's feeling like a pretty good accomplishment having as much of the valley farm cleaned up as it is compared to what it was when I took it back over. I know for a fact I've reclaimed probably 10 acres minimum, and I'm willing to bet it's closer to that 12 to 15 acres that I've actually just reclaimed. Not saying that Mother Nature can't come back and we get a slew of wet years and it just never gets a chance to dry out, then I'm hopefully not back at square one. But having this cleaned off like it is, I'll get the ripper down here and I'll pull that mole plow through part of it. I'm not doing anything that I did last year. I mean, I think all that is still sitting fine. It's just the area that I just came across tedding on that reclaim bit. I feel that 1000% pulling that ripper through that as deep as I can drop it down, essentially. Which, if it's on the 7920, I should be able to drop it all the way down and not even feel it on the tractor. And I don't have to use a 79. Just having to be able to repeat my paths and making sure I'm staying on identical widths is what I'd like to try. Dad was trying to use the guidance when he was mowing. He says it worked for like the first half dozen passes, and then he said it started the guidance line started wandering on him, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. I mean, down here is in the valley. I've had better luck having my guidance already locked on and then coming down here versus coming down and like being down here and then turning the monitor on, because it seems like it struggles to find a signal. I'm thinking that's part of the problem we were looking at. I'm not for certain, but I can manually drive this regardless. But getting that ground, pulling something through that ground, and having that mole, weight behind it to create a passageway for moisture to actually escape, under the ground. Whether or not that drain, that poor man's tile actually stays long term or short term, I don't know. The stuff that I hit last year, it was very obvious, visibly obvious, that I ripped there, because the grass is about 6 inches taller and twice as like a deeper green, a healthier green than everything on either side of it. I don't want to go through and rip the whole bottom, because everywhere where I drove with it, it did ultimately knock out the grass. I don't want to do that either. But if I can come down here and do 4 or 5 acres, it'd be interesting to see how it performs next year. Because with a bunch of snow melt regardless, having this 100% exposed, I've hit it with the mower in the past, like the brush mower, the rotary cutter, the grinder, mulch it, ground it, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. There's always that material there that was keeping the sun from being able to fully penetrate the ground. And going through and getting this cleaned up, this is as good as I'm ever going to get this cleaned off. Yeah, this doesn't allow us to, farm the maximum amount possible, and it's just what it's going to be. It'll be a yearly thing, where depending on how much rain we get or snow we get and how hot we get, as to whether or not it'll allow me to go in and keep that cleaned off. Because I gotta tell you, it's a lot more enjoyable. It makes a lot more work out of it, yeah, but it's a lot more enjoyable being able to start by the river, go all the way around along the hillside, and then work in and actually go from the outside in and just do circles. It's a lot more fun down here for sure. So I don't know, I guess it's a small accomplishment. We get this stuff made. I'll let you guys know what we actually get off of it. I think it's going to yield better than first crop. I mean, first crop, technically, it yielded 198, but technically it was 215 if you include everything that I made off of that way overgrown stuff. That was, what, 15 bales? I have fed some of those out, but the really heavy, nasty ones, I haven't fed out yet because I'm just going to put that out for bedding. Let the cows lay on it, and I'll haul it back out for manure. But this is, for this year being dry like we are, it should really allow me enough feed to get through this winter. And then if we get on more of an average year next year where I'm looking at several hundred bales, because on average I should be around 700 bales, 724, 700 plus is the average. It'll allow me to a little bit of bales to sell and to keep doing the cows like I'm doing. I know it doesn't make sense to an awful lot of people that I'm feeding my cows year-round like I am, but I think with some tweaking and changing a couple things here and there, I actually think I can make it work. Number one is my calves. I think my calves could be doing better, but I think part of why my calves aren't doing as well as I mean, they're not hurting by any means, don't get me wrong, but the age of my cow herd, the average age of my cow herd is over 5 years old. So I'm just looking at them. They are producing milk as late into the season as you ideally would want them to. But having, you know, another, gosh, I have what, 20 heifers that I added into the group, because my younger heifers that I bought, my first calvers, they are still lactating. They're still feeding their calves. It's the older cows that they know how to produce a calf. It's just they're not producing enough milk for them anymore. I wonder if they're kind of getting shorted there. That's what it's kind of seeming like to me. But being able to feed my cows efficiently, being able to put in 8 to 10 bales in that bale feeder like I got, and make it kind of like a non-event. We always said that about milking cows. Milking cows wouldn't have been so bad if it was a non-event. I mean, when we were milking in a state of the Stone Age barn, which it was actually not that old, it was, the Rockville barn is what, made in 78, and the one down at my place is being retrofitted from the early 1900s. I mean, it's maybe not, you know, I hate to bet, but if you could go through and do a job that's a repetitive job, you know, like feeding cattle or milking cattle, if you could do it where it's like a non-event, where, yep, just you can go in, do it quickly, efficiently, you don't really think about even doing it, and you're producing a quality product while you're doing that, it makes it worthwhile. And like for milking cows, it was ideally a free stall in a parlor, which I think anymore now, the last I'm really aware of it, I think it's not even milking parlors, it's robots where you're not milking cows at all. But that's what I mean in regards to like my beef cows. I have eyes on my cows every single day. Being able to feed them and have all the feed they want in front of them basically all the time. It's a smaller lot. I'm gonna have them open to the pasture more often. I mean, so they're not crowded by any means. But my cows aren't taking any hurt. I mean, they're full, they're filled out. Nobody is looking like it's been a tough summer. That's for sure. I mean, I'm gonna have some pasture here that I can put my cows out on. I mean, take cow-calf pairs out. but I don't have nearly enough pasture available that I can do that on. And this is grass. This is the type of material that cows are going to eat regardless. If you let them loose, they'd come down here and they'd mow this stuff off. I mean, if this is what I gave them. So the only difference is I'm getting a lot more feed efficiency out of it because they have to eat what I'm giving them. They can't just pick through it and let the older stuff or the taller stuff grow up. No, there's none of that. It's no, you're gonna eat what's in front of you, and then once you're done with it, I'll give you some more. And it sounds mean, but I'm getting more usage of the hay that I'm putting in. So it's just trying to figure out what's going to work. So having good feed on hand is important. That's why I'm trying to get this stuff made without a bunch of rain on it, but it's the end of mid-September, and good drying days are kind of hard to come by this time of year anyway. So we'll see. The cows are a big part of my operation. They've been a big part of my operation as of this spring, when I made the decision to really ramp up the number of cows I got, to really push the amount of calves I'm producing. And once I get going, and I actually have a steady process for my cattle, it'll be a non-event. The cattle are getting a lot more of my attention right now because I'm getting them going. I'm trying to figure out what works for me. So you can thank Herschel and Myrna for it, because they're the ones that kind of kick-started me back into raising the cows. It definitely, at least, has got me started doing it. And we're set up for beef and crops. I mean, ideally, if you could just do row crops, it'd be great, but we can feed calves and do cattle. That's what our farms are set up to do anyway, so we might as well do it. Because renting it out isn't an option, because a renter isn't going to take care of the farm as good as you would, the owner. I'm talking about rented ground, like pasture, but for this down here, I mean, that's the ground that I rent, I treat it like it's my own. So landowner's been really impressed with what we've done down here, so that's always a good feeling. But I'm just about done down here. I mean, these are really long passes. I actually I'm gonna have the Globe and the Gator this fall. I'm gonna redo a bunch of boundaries so I get around to it, and I'll come down here. I'd like to get a true boundary on this down here, is to see how many acres I truly am cutting, because I am very certain that we cut at least 120 acres down here when we were down here in the last 2 days. With 2 mowers cutting, it really seemed like we weren't going to get done. It really didn't. But alright, I talked about my cows more than I really meant to, but for those of you that are still hanging on, hoping for some fieldwork videos, harvest I figure is about 2 weeks away approximately. Planning on being pretty busy in the upcoming week. I'm gonna try super duper hard to get the gates in up the farm for feeding my cattle, and a day of work I can have that up and running, and then after that, whatever else I can find. I'm waiting for some equipment to show up to put in the 79 monitors and stuff, because I'll be roading the 79, pulling that easy trail wagon around instead of the 79, or instead of the 76. But with more tractors on hand this year, the big thing is I can actually put the 76 on that Rhino 4155, and I can go around and do all the field edges, grind up all like the saplings and stuff that really need to be cleaned up before we do tillage. The 82 is going to be on the baler,
until we need to put it on the chisel plow, but it needs to be on the baler until we can get our fodder made. But having that hooked up and ready to go, which it won't get unhooked until, I mean, even after we're done baling, it's going to stay hooked up. The 76 will be able to grind stalks up, then I'll unhook it, hook this, put this on the rake, and then the 76 and the 82 will get our fodder baled for the fall. And then the 79, the 4640 are going to be on grain carting duty. The 79 will be on the green cart when it needs to be, and it's just going to go back and forth between the wagon, the Easy Trail wagon, and that green grain cart. And the 4640, I don't know if that seems a little silly putting that on that red cart, but we already got the duals back on it. And I mean, I'm assuming Dale's gonna be helping haul hay in with the 46 anyway, so we got the duals and put the trailer on it and he'll be set. But putting the 4640 on that big red cart, that's all I really need that tractor for. We proved last fall that tractor can handle that very well. And with having Dale help, not that I don't doubt his capabilities of running any of the other tractors, but if he's comfortable running that 46 with that bigger red cart, I'd rather have him run that. And I'd feel better knowing that he's comfortable running that tractor, pulling that much weight behind him. So I'm hoping for a good fall. Everybody, I think, is hoping for a good fall. But I'm hoping for an earlier finish this year, so I have a chance to do some of that late season work. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you care to keep watching the rest of the story. And as things change, I'll keep you updated. I'll talk to you later.